What is going on in Zeltone? And today I actually wanted to give you a nice little breakdown and kind of overview of my DIY home-built RC plane, the very first one I ever built. So I wanted to just give you a kind of tour of what it is that I've done. I do want to do some upgrades possibly to this aircraft at some point. I'm actually thinking right now about rebuilding the entire fuselage, only because one, I use duct tape on the foam, and if you look at it, it looks like a fish, scales, whatever. I may actually do some changes to the dimensions, widen the body out a little bit so that I can fit not just the receiver, but also fit an A3 Super 4 inside this plane, which will make it fly a lot smoother, even though I do need to do some trimming. So essentially, the wing is solid. The wing is what it is what it's going to be. I will know that the wing works. It works. And I built the fuselage basically around the wing. And I wrote down some measurements and whatnot. I just finished measuring this guy up a little bit just to give you an idea. Of course, this plane is a cross between my club president's design. The wing is based on his design. With some modifications. I 3D printed the ribs inside the wing, and I have a carbon fiber arrow rod running all the way through this wing. The ribs are 3D printed, and then I have a centerpiece that is also 3D printed. I'm probably going to go back into Onshape and fix that design and make it a little bit lighter, but still maintaining that structure. I actually intended on putting some dihedral in this wing, but I didn't. So as I get better with Onshape, I'll probably redo that centerpiece, putting dihedral in it. And I also want to run a hole all the way through. So rather than using rubber bands on this wing, I want to be able to attach it using screws. So that means I not only have to put the holes in the centerpiece to go through for screws to go through and screw into something underneath, but I also have to, inside the fuselage, create a structure that it will screw into. And if I do that, that will make things a lot easier. I just have to take a screwdriver like this out to the field with me and install the wing, and it'll be solid and it'll be straight, because I did have an issue where the wing was a little canted one side. Not only that, but also the wing is not sitting straight with the stabilizer in the rear, so I actually had to put a shim in there before I flew it in order to straighten the wing out, because the fuselage evidently was a little bit off in the construction. So that's again a reason why I'm thinking about rebuilding the fuselage, and then but using all the same electronics and basically using the same measurement for the if not use the exact same stabilizer, vertical and horizontal stabilizer, as well as the rudder and aileron in the back. If I don't use the exact same one, I may redesign something, because that was pretty easy to build, but redo that in the back and get that but essentially the body, the fuselage itself, redoing that, and with the new one possibly put landing gear on it. One of the things that I did do in the back of this, in the bottom, is I actually have some plywood down here. There's a piece here and there's a piece inside the fuselage, and I hot glued them on. So I cut this tape off, hot glued them on there, and this was for the purpose of drilling a hole through to add landing gear to this plane. So it had something solid to go through and attach to, and I made it super long so that you know, it actually have something to really support that weight of the plane coming down on it, and it wouldn't cause any issues with the foam. So just reinforcing, it added weight to the plane, of course, but you know, it is what it is. My hatch is super long, and you can see it's opened up here. My ESC 60 amp ESC is here, and then I actually made an extension. This extension wire that connects to my battery is pretty long, and I did that on purpose. I wanted it to have some length, but that is how I ended up connecting the positive side to my receiver. This connects to my receiver, which is back here, and provides the battery voltage to my receiver. So if I redo the fuselage, then I will essentially also in the process shorten this wire and redo that. I didn't want it to cut the wires going directly to my ESC because it came from the factory that way. Didn't want to do that, so I just made myself an extension. And because the nose is so long, I made this pretty long, so I had some room to move it around and do some things with it if I needed to. Right now, that's the piece of wood back there. It's got a piece of Velcro on it that runs back to about right here in the wing, behind the wing. And the reason for that was so I had plenty of room to move the battery back and forth. I do have a tray here that I had to cut out because the batteries that I'm using are too large to fit in this fuselage the way it is. So this battery is actually too large. I was going to use these. These are 6200 milliamp hour LiPos in a plastic container. I was going to use this, and you can see it's got an EC5 connector on it, and then I have my adapter here to go to my XT60 connector. But I was going to use this, but it turns out that this is too wide for the body. So if I recreate or rebuild my fuselage, I plan on building it so that I can actually use this battery inside the fuselage. That's what my intent is. So I have numerous batteries that I can use, and with a 6200 milliamp hour battery, I'll be able to fly over 10 minutes with this plane and not even have any problems with it. So I got a good 6 or more minutes of flight time. That initial flight was with a 3300 milliamp hour battery, and when I landed, I was pretty much right at 3.7 volts per cell on the 3300 milliamp hour battery. So I got about six minutes of flight time out of it, which was perfect. So on a battery this size, that's great. And then my other flights, I flew one with the 6,000 milliamp hour and another with the 52. And when I landed with both of those, I could have flown for another minute or so. I flew them out pretty good, but I could have flown for another minute or so. So right now, the way this guy is sitting, and again, it's a lot of information here. The fuselage currently is about 50 inches long. I don't know what that is in millimeters. And my wing is 56 millimeters long. And this wing is, in the cord, not including this back surface, is about 8 inches. Overall, this cord is, let's take a look, including that rear surface, it is about just a hair over 9 inches wing cord. And when I did my balancing, I actually used the 9 inches as the balance to get the center balance of the wing itself. And then what I did was I balanced the fuselage with the electronics in it to determine where the wing should sit on the fuselage. And then I marked it, and then I made my center of gravity on the fuselage and my center of gravity on the wing the same spot. That's basically how I worked that out, and it seemed to work out pretty good. She is a little tail heavy, just a little bit. If you don't get the battery in the correct position, she can be a little bit tail heavy, which means I full throttle and she noses up. She wants to climb for days. There's not anything totally wrong with that, but what that means to me is I need to put the battery a little bit further forward, and I had my 6,000 milliamp hour butted all the way up against that surface where I trimmed out the platform that the battery is going to sit on. I had it all the way forward, and it gave me just a little bit of nose down with the balance from my where I've set my center of gravity on the wing, and it worked out actually pretty well. It flew pretty decent. All I had to do was trim out my elevator a little bit, and I'm going to have to do that on the next flight as well. I tried to do my last flight. I tried to do a manual, and I didn't do it properly. I did a manual trim on my elevator, and actually overdid it, and so I ended up having to trim it. I was having some problems flying it in. If your plane's a little tail heavy, you will have a little bit of problems controlling it. If it's a lot tail heavy, you probably won't be able to fly it again because you're probably going to crash it. So I was able to, it was not so tail heavy that I wasn't able to control it, but I did have to, it was a little interesting because I not only had to make sure I kept the nose down or level, but I also had to control my left and right and all that. My initial flight, I flew my Su-35, and the Su-35 has a gimbal in it that doesn't allow you, it keeps the plane level. So if you take your hand off the sticks, it will just level the plane back out. Before flying this, forced me into a bad habit of overcompensating, oversteering basically as I was flying. So a lot of the going in and out and all over the place was because I was oversteering basically with my right control stick. And after flying it around the field 2 or 3 times, I kind of broke myself back out of that habit, and I was able to fly it pretty well. But overall, I have to say that as much of a handful as this guy was, I was able to fly it pretty well, and even got a couple of really nice low passes toward the end. Trying to think if there's anything else that I wanted to share with you about this plane. It was just fantastic. A quick reminder that this channel is for beginners because I consider myself a beginner to slight intermediate. If you happen to be someone that has a lot of knowledge and you're really looking to get in-depth information on so many different things, because I'm only here to get you started, then make sure you go and check out other channels like RC Video Reviews. Captain Drone is another great one to try out or check out. And there's quite a few others that I have learned a lot from as well. So make sure you do that. So thanks again so much for coming by and checking this out with me. I really appreciate it. I hope that you learned something. I hope this has been valuable to you. Have an absolutely fantastic day, and I look forward to seeing you again very, very soon. I tried to put some down trim in the elevator manually, and I think I may have caused some issues. Yeah.
Do you need some help with the trim?
Possibly. Let's see. Let's see if I can.
Minus 73 dB.
I think that might have helped. Oh yeah, that's much better.
0.9 volts.
That's much better. So yeah, I must have put too much down on the manually on the elevator.
13 minutes minus 56 dB.
But it does look like my wing is a little twisted. Yeah, better now.
Minus 61 dB.